Our next speaker is Ms. Meifang Zhang, the Deputy Consul General, Consulate General of the People's Republic of China in New York.
Madame Helga Zippler-Rouge, Chairperson of the Schiller Institute, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It is truly a great honor and pleasure for me to invite you to attend this morning's conference named China-U.S. Cooperation on the Belt and Road Initiative and its corresponding ideas in Chinese and Western philosophy. Please, first of all, let me to extend, on behalf of the Chinese Consulate General in New York City, on behalf of Consul General Ambassador Zhang Qiyue, to extend our heartfelt greetings to you all, and may we also wish this morning's conference be held with a full success. Just now. And thank you so much, Madame Helga Zippler-Rouge, for your very interesting and very important speech, which really inspired us all. And as I understand that this morning, I'm invited to share with you what kind of meanings and characteristics do the Belt and Road Initiative carry, and can it bring it to relevant regions and to other parts of the world. So perhaps these are the main topics which I'm going to share with you this morning. First of all, let me start with what is really the initiative of the One Belt, One Road. How did it come into being? The Belt and Road Initiative is a very crucial component of China's new opening up policy. In 2013, when President Xi Jinping made a trip to the Eastern European countries, he raised the initiative of jointly building the Silk Road economic belt and also the 21st century maritime Silk Road during his trip to countries in Central Asia as well as the Southeast Asian nations. So some 3 years after President Xi's proposal, the Belt and Road Initiative has been built from scratch, and now it has really taken root and bloomed in more and more countries, and several positive responses in international community as well. For instance, so far, about 100 countries and international organizations have already expressed their interest and also expressed their support from the One Belt, One Road Initiative. Apart from this, 40 countries and international organizations have already signed their cooperation agreements. So on this point, I would love to talk to you mainly about 3 major points regarding the Belt and Road Initiative. First of all, the Belt and Road Initiative is a cooperative proposal based on the principle of mutual negotiation, joint development, and sharing. So the history of the Belt and Road Initiative is as follows. It is early as the 2100 years ago, when Zhang Qian, probably most of you would know Zhang Qian, the Chinese explorer and diplomat at that time from the Han Dynasty, was dispatched to visit the Western regions twice and also opened up the door for the friendship between China and the countries to China's west. So this everlasting and also ever-changing trade route gradually expanded and eventually became what we call the Silk Road. So fast forward from the Tang and Song dynasties and also Ming Dynasty, we have another legendary figure, what was named Zhang Heng. Zheng He commanded several expeditionary voyages down the sea to the west. So thanks to the advanced navigation technology at that time, our ancestors successfully embarked on the maritime Silk Road. So for thousands of years, the Silk Roads has not only brought about the goods such as silk, porcelain, and also spices, but also brought peace, friendship, and real benefits to the people from numerous countries around the world. The important historical legacy of the Silk Road is the Silk Road spirit, which is enshrined in the peace and cooperation, openness and inclusiveness, mutual learning, and also mutual benefit. Today, China's Silk and Road Initiative is not only the inheritance and innovation of the ancient Silk Road, but the common aspirations of the countries along the Belt and Silk Road to strengthen mutually beneficial cooperation. Such initiative really stands by the principle of mutual negotiation, joint development, and sharing in order to promote the policy coordination, facilitate collectivity, unimpeded trade, financial integration, and people-to-people bonds. The initiative also aims to promote the integration of the development strategies of the countries along the Silk and Belt Road to enable all countries involved to complement one another and also to narrow the regional disparities, to accelerate the process of the regional integration in order to raise the overall economic development in the region. The Belt and Silk Initiative is by far the most important public project China has provided to the world, and also a crucial practice for China's establishment of partnerships in the world. As I mentioned, and probably as you know, that since the establishment of such initiative 3 years ago, this initiative has continuously expanded in influence and received, as I mentioned, positive responses and support from over 100 countries in the world and also from the international organizations. And with the support and engagement of all countries along the road, the Belt and Road Initiative has progressed smoothly and reaped an earnest harvest. For instance, the Chinese enterprises have established more than 56 economic and trade cooperation zones in more than 20 countries along the Silk and Road, with a total investment of more than $18.5 billion. A series of major projects have landed and flourished, simulated the economic growth of countries along the routes, and created a large quantity of employment opportunities. And also want to mention in particular is that starting this January, the China-Europe freight train, perhaps Madame Larouche has already mentioned, which departs from Yiwu city in East China, has arrived in London for the first time ever. The 12,000-kilometer railway lines takes the cargo train 18 days to travel from Central Asian and European countries, the Channel Tunnel, and eventually arrive in London, with travel time 1 month shorter than shipping via sea and cost 1/5 that of the air freight. Intercontinental freight train service has stimulated the local import and export business. Given its obvious time and cost advantage, it has become really an obstacle in a Belt and Road Initiative. So this is just an example to show you. And the second point I want to talk to you about is from the cultural perspective. So the Belt and Road Initiative is really deeply rooted in China's rich cultural traditions. It is a pragmatic and cooperative initiative. The Asian Silk Road was a road of trade, and more importantly, a road of friendship that carried humanistic and cultural exchanges, as well as promoted mutual understanding of all civilizations. Within China's 5,000 years of history, We have lots of philosophers such as Lao Tzu, Confucius, and Mengzi, which Madame Larouche has already mentioned, put forward a lot of ideas and thoughts, many of which, including that are the most important ones and that are most famous ones, such as to seek common ground while putting aside differences, absorbing the absence and discarding the dross, contributing to help others when you live a good life, positioning oneself correctly in the world to walk the correct. I mean, these phrases still shape the contemporary Chinese people's life. Thanks to Chinese 5,000 years of history and philosophy, China is a peace-loving nation. We love peace. We love to have a peaceful world, during which we love to develop our friendly relations and cooperation with all countries around the world, including this great country, the United States. And China has become the world's second largest economy, thanks to our 38 years of reform and opening to the outside world. Last year, China's economy was stable and very healthy. By the end of this year, we're expecting to a steady growth of about 6.5%. So the speed of China's economic growth has transitioned from high to medium high. It's expected to, within the next 5 years, China will import $8 trillion worth of goods with over $750 billion of overseas investment, while outbound tourism is estimated to reach 700 million. Currently, China has been pushing forward structural reform, guided by a vision of what we call the most 5 important pillars vis-a-vis our national economic and social development that are innovative, coordinated, green, open, and shared development to achieve supply-side economic restructuring and upgrading. We are willing to share with other countries the new historical opportunities China has during the entire process of promoting regional development strategy, new urbanization strategy, and opening up strategy. So the third point I want to share with you is the Belt and Road Initiative, characterized by openness and inclusiveness, is an innovative platform of great potential. At a time when the economic outlook is uncertain and the recovery is slow in the world, and also at a time when various challenges as the backdrop, contradictions between openness and exclusiveness, economic integration and fragmentation are further highlighted. At the opening plenary session of the 2017 annual meeting of the World Economic Forum held at Davos this January, Chinese President Xi Jinping pointed out that we shall firmly promote an open world economy to share opportunities and profits with other countries in the process of opening up, and to realize mutual benefits and a win-win situation. We shall not retreat to harbor whenever there is wind and waves. Otherwise, we will never be able to enter the paradise of success shared by all. We shall vigorously enhance the global connectivity to achieve joint growth and common prosperity with countries all over the globe. And today, it is of great importance when we are gathering here to talk about the Belt and the Road Initiative, is it will not only broaden the space and bring historical opportunities to deepen Sino-US relations and cooperation, but also the international cooperation under the Belt and Road Initiative will not be limited to countries along the routes, but open to all countries, including the United States. For more than 3 years, many Western companies, including those from the United States, have been substantially involved in projects related to the Belt and Road Initiative. As you probably know that in May this year, China will host in Beijing the Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation, which aims to discuss ways to boost cooperation, build cooperation platforms, and share cooperation outcomes. The forum will also explore ways to address problems facing the global and also regional economic problems, create fresh energy for pursuing interconnected development, and make the Belt and Road Initiative deliver greater benefits to people of the countries that are all involved. And thirdly, the Belt and Road Initiative, characterized by openness and inclusiveness, is an innovative platform of great potential. As I mentioned, that at the time when the economic outlook is uncertain and the recovery is very slow, at a time that when there is challenges as the backdrop, contradictions between openness and exclusiveness, economic integration and fragmentation will further be highlighted. So what we should do in this entire process is that we need to more strengthen our efforts to promote Sino-US relations. In this way, we can bring our initiative into full play. Talking about Sino-US relations, let me spend some minutes to talk about it. China and the United States are the world's largest developing country and the world's most developed country in the world. So the relationship between the world's largest country and the world's most developed country is perhaps the most important and most dynamic relationship in the world. At present, China is the United States' largest trading partner. The trade volume is more than 210 times as large as it was 38 years ago. In other sense, that the total bilateral trade between China and the United States in 2016 reached almost 109 billion US dollars, is against almost less than 2 billion US dollars in the early 1980s, shortly after China established diplomatic relations with the United States. So the last year, and also the amount of our bilateral investment between our two countries reached more than over 170 billion US dollars. Besides, I want to mention in particular, between our two countries, China has more than 300,000 students who pursue advanced studies in the United States. And as against, there were less than 10,000 people traveling across our two countries in 1 year, but right now we have almost 10,000 people traveling across the two sides of the Pacific every single day. And every 70 minutes, there is a flight flying across the Trans-Pacific. And according to the statistics results from the US side, bilateral trade and investment between China and the United States have created over 2.6 million jobs openings for the United States. The number of the Chinese tourists traveling to the States reached 2.59 million last year from 2016, creating over $30 billion of tourism revenue for the United States. So I can talk on and on the specific statistics about our two countries in all aspects of life. However, the development and improvement of Sino-US relations cannot do without the high-level talks. As Madame LaRouche already mentioned in great details about the results of the meetings between the two heads of state last week. And I want to conclude my speech by talking about the results of the meetings between President Xi Jinping and also President Donald Trump. Last week, upon the invitation of President Donald Trump, President Xi Jinping came to Mar-a-Lago, where he had meetings, important meetings, that are historically significant meetings with President Donald Trump. So President Xi and his wife, Madame Peng Liyuan, were received by President Donald Trump's family's 3 generations. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson of the United States went to the airport to greet our president and Madame. That really showed the great importance attached by the United States to this meeting. Over the last week, over the days when the president was here, the leaders of the two countries have had many important meetings, during which they had in-depth exchange of views on Sino-US relationship and international and regional issues of common concern, reaching many important consensus. Both sides believed that the meeting is rooted positively and has made many important achievements. Firstly, the meeting is aimed at strengthening mutual understanding and trust of the two heads of state. President Xi Jinping and President Donald Trump shared governance theory and introduced to each other their respective ongoing priority areas, which deepens mutual understanding and establishes very good working relationship between two heads of state. President Donald Trump accepted President Xi Jinping's invitation for a state visit to China later this year. Both leaders have also agreed to keep close contacts through meetings, through calls, and through letters. The deeper the two leaders communicate with each other, the bigger role they could play in guiding China-US relations, creating the relationship's compatibility and tenacity, and boosting the world's positive expectations for their further development. And secondly, the result of the meeting is that the meeting affirms the development, direction, and principles of China-US relations. Both leaders highly applauded the historic progress of Sino-US relations and agreed to promote greater development to a new starting point so as to bring more benefits to people of both countries and the entire world. President Xi reiterated the cooperation is the only choice for China and the United States, that both countries are capable of becoming good partners. He pointed out in particular that we have 1,000 reasons to make China-US relations a success and no reason to make bilateral relations a failure. President Donald Trump noted that the United States stands ready to cooperate with China to eliminate those factors and problems affecting bilateral relations, which will realize and bring about greater development of China-US relations. Bilateral relations will certainly be better. Thirdly, the meeting has also laid out priority fields and mechanisms of bilateral cooperation. China and the United States agreed to promote healthy development of two-way investment and trade, as well as to advance two-way investment agreement negotiations. The two heads of state have announced the establishment of 4 high-level dialogue mechanisms, which I'm not going to repeat, as Madame LaRouche has already mentioned just now. These 4 high-level dialogue mechanisms important achievement from the Mar-a-Lago meeting. So in addition, the two heads of state exchanged in-depth views on international and regional issues of common concern, such as the Korean Peninsula nuclear issue, and the speed to expand and agreed to expand cooperation on regional and international issues to contribute to the maintenance of regional and world peace, stability, and prosperity. So in summary, the meeting of our two heads of state is very important, timely, and effective, which has achieved the original goal of enhancing mutual understanding, establishing mutual trust, and reaching common consensus. Last but not the least, I want to quote President Xi as saying that China welcomes the United States to participate in cooperation within the Belt and Road framework. President Xi stressed that both countries have become each other's first largest trading partners, and both peoples have benefited a lot from it. China is pushing forward its supply-side structural reform and continuously expanding domestic demand. The proportion of service industry of national economy has been constantly improved. China's economy will maintain a sound development momentum, and the enhancement of economic and trade cooperation between the countries enjoys broad prospects. Both countries should really seize the opportunities. So finally, if not the least, may I also want to thank Schiller Institute for inviting me, and also particular appreciation goes to Lenny and also Richard and their team who have been working so hard in order to make this morning's conference a full success. Thank you.